Discovered, a poor maid's heartwarming mistake leads to an incredible life-changing blessing. Rosa stood in the Andersons' grand kitchen, her cleaning uniform starkly contrasting with the gleaming marble countertops and sparkling chandeliers. As the sunlight streamed through the expansive windows, illuminating the pristine space, she couldn't help but feel a pang of longing. A single mother to 7-year-old Marina, who sang like an angel and spun stories that could weave magic, Rosa dreamt of a better life for them. Their tiny apartment, brimming with laughter, handmade crafts, and a few cherished heirlooms, felt like an oasis of love despite its modesty. But that day, her heart weighed heavy with thoughts of Marina's upcoming school play. Rosa imagined her daughter's bright face, dressed in a sparkling costume, her eyes twinkling with delight. In her distraction, Rosa absent-mindedly mistook a lavish diamond necklace for her beloved thrift store treasure during the cleaning frenzy. "Don't worry, it's just a mistake," she whispered to herself, leaving the pristine home unaware of the storm brewing in the affluent neighborhood. Whispers of the missing necklace soon fluttered through Maplewood like autumn leaves in the wind. "Did you hear? Rosa the maid is under suspicion," a neighbor said, her voice dripping with judgment. The haunting murmurs felt like daggers to Rosa's heart. How could they think she would steal? Friends turned to strangers, and the comfortable fabric of the community began to unravel. As the scrutiny intensified, Jimmy, the retired veteran who lived across the hall, noticed Rosa's struggle. He saw the weariness in her eyes, the stress lines forming on her forehead. Rosa needs help, he thought, rallying the neighbors to search for the truth. We need to support her. With his determination, the once polarized community began to unite, revealing hidden talents and stories that enriched their lives. Their town was abuzz with debates over the upcoming meeting set to discuss the accusations against Rosa. Tension crackled in the air as residents prepared to voice their concerns. Rosa felt her stomach twist, looming under the weight of expectations. Standing before her neighbors, her voice trembled. "I'm not a thief," she stated, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. The room erupted in disagreement. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. At that moment, Marina burst onto the stage in her school play, her infectious laughter breaking through the heavy atmosphere like sunlight piercing through clouds. With every song she sang, the townsfolk began to remember the simple truth: wealth is not what defines us. It's love, family, and the courage to stand together. Rosa's heart swelled with hope as she watched her daughter shine, her light pushing against the shadows of doubt. Yet, unbeknownst to Rosa, the climax of misunderstanding loomed, tightening around her like a noose. Would Rosa find the strength to fight for her place in this town? And as her daughter's voice rang out in pure harmony, could it light a path to redemption for both mother and community? The tension in the room softened as Marina's angelic voice breathed life into the play. Laughter, cheers, and a ripple of applause filled the air, overshadowing the whispers and doubts that had plagued Rosa's thoughts. In that moment, something shifted within her. Rosa felt a surge of determination wash over her, fueled by the joy radiating from her daughter. After the performance, the small auditorium buzzed with excited chatter. Parents hugged their children, and friends congratulated one another. Rosa took a deep breath, steadying her heart. She couldn't let the accusations shatter this beautiful moment. She sought out Jimmy, who was smiling broadly, his eyes gleaming with pride, a hero in his own right. "Did you see her?" Rosa asked, her voice cracking slightly. "She's a star, Rosa." That voice. "You've done a great job raising her," Jimmy said, his encouragement wrapping around her like a warm blanket. But the weight of the missing necklace still loomed heavy. Rosa's joy felt muted, a beautiful song overshadowed by an unwelcome silence. She glanced around, the faces she once considered friends now wore expressions of doubt. Her heart sank as she recalled the murmurings that had shaken her world. "Rosa!" A familiar voice called out, pulling her from her thoughts. It was Mrs. Anderson, the elegant lady who had worn the missing necklace. The apprehension faded slightly as Mrs. Anderson, flanked by her husband, approached with a deep frown etched on her face. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice clipped and jagged. Rosa's stomach twisted again. "Of course. Can you explain how you thought that necklace was yours? A simple mistake?" Mrs. Anderson's eyes searched Rosa's face, looking for a crack in her facade. Rosa hesitated, torn between the urge to defend her innocence and the fear of deepening the rift. "I thought it was just a piece of costume jewelry. I was distracted." Her voice trembled. Dallas, Mrs. Anderson's husband, suddenly interjected, "You should be careful, Rosa. Accidents like this don't happen in our circle." His words were pointed, sharp enough to sting. The accusation hung in the air, an icy reminder of how quickly trust could evaporate. Rosa swallowed hard. "I work hard for my family. You must believe me, I would never steal." Jimmy stepped in, an unwavering advocate as he glared at the Andersons. "Enough. Rosa has proven herself time and again to this community. This had to be a mistake. We need to find the necklace before blame drives us apart." The tension thickened, but Rosa felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. People were beginning to step forward, lifting her burdens. Conversations bubbled around them as neighbors started to align with Jimmy, murmurs of solidarity swelling as voices joined together, drowning out the negativity. But doubt still crept in. Would the community's support be strong enough to withstand the pressure from the Andersons? As the laughter and applause from Marina's performance faded into the background, Rosa realized she had to make a choice. She could stand back as a victim or step up to reclaim her dignity. As night fell over Maplewood, she felt an urgent resolve rising within her. She would find the necklace or prove her innocence. And as she turned to Jimmy, her heart pounding, she knew there was no turning back. "I need your help." Little did they both know that the search to clear her name would lead them down unexpected paths, connecting them to truths hidden beneath the surface of Maplewood's charm. What secrets awaited them in the shadows? The search began the very next day, as dawn's light filtered through Rosa's kitchen window, casting a warm glow on their breakfast table. Rosa felt the energy pulsing through her, an electric mix of anxiety and resolve. She and Jimmy mapped out a plan over toast and coffee, her heart racing with the idea of confronting the problem head-on. "Maybe we can start by asking around," Jimmy suggested, his brow furrowed in thought. "People might have noticed something." "Right," Rosa replied, gathering her courage. "Maybe we can also trace the evening back to the theater. Who was around? Who handled the costumes?" Jimmy nodded, finishing his coffee with a determined gulp. They quickly decided to start with the theater's costume designer, Ms. Ellis, the wise woman at the heart of every production. As they drove to the community theater, Rosa's mind replayed Marina's performance. The pride she felt melted her anxiety, but it morphed into a quiet anger towards the accusation that threatened to tarnish their joy. If only people knew how hard she worked to provide for her daughter, a far cry from the picture painted by the Andersons. When they arrived, the old brick building stood tall, its vibrant posters of previous performances draped across the walls. As Rosa stepped inside, nostalgia swirled around her. The scent of fresh paint mixed with the lingering smell of stage dust filled her lungs, reminding her that she had always belonged here, in this space of creativity and community. Ms. Ellis was busy sorting through garments. When she spotted Rosa and Jimmy, she smiled warmly. "What brings you two in today?" Rosa hesitated for a moment, but the determination bolstered her. "We were hoping to ask you about the costume jewelry from last night's performance. Specifically, the necklace that was borrowed by mistake." Ms. Ellis's expression shifted slightly, concern replacing her cheer. Ah, that one. A lovely piece, it belonged to Mrs. Anderson. Rosa felt heat rise in her cheeks. I'd like to understand how it went missing. It's important to prove my innocence. Ms. Ellis regarded Rosa with kind eyes. Listen, accidents happen in the heat of theater life. Let us go over everything together. The three of them sat down and began retracing the night, going over who handled what, who interacted with the costumes, and where the necklace might have been misplaced. The more they spoke, the more Rosa's chest tightened. Ms. Ellis mentioned a particularly raucous moment when backstage action got chaotic, and she recalled seeing an uncertain young girl, a stagehand, come through the area where the jewelry was kept. She was nervous, startled by all the excitement of the opening night, Ms. Ellis said, her eyes narrowing thoughtfully. Maybe she brushed against something or got caught up in the moment. Jimmy leaned closer. Do you think she could have taken it by accident? A flicker of hope ignited in Rosa's heart. If you remember her name, we could talk to her. Maybe she knows what happened. That's when Ms. Ellis looked pained, racking her brain. I think her name was Ellie, something. A newcomer, just trying to fit in. You could find her. Try the cafe down the street. It's where she mentioned she'd be working between gigs. Gratefully, they exchanged numbers and promised to keep in touch. As they walked back to the car, new determination swelled inside Rosa. Do you think we're getting closer? She asked, glancing at Jimmy. Definitely. We're on the right track, he said, squeezing her hand. Marina had been so happy on stage. But now, the stakes felt higher. Rosa couldn't afford the community's disapproval or the lasting stain on Marina's dreams. As dusk gathered, getting closer to the cafe, Rosa felt a swell of emotions: fear, hope, and something fierce, a burning passion to protect her daughter's future. What if Ellie held the key to unravel this twisted plot? With each passing moment, she felt the heartbeat of the town growing louder. They parked outside the little cafe where laughter filled the air, but inside Rosa's chest, apprehension brewed. Would this young girl hold the answer to her unfolding nightmare, or would more trouble lie ahead? As they stepped inside, Rosa caught sight of a familiar figure, and her heart skipped a beat. Would this be the moment of revelation they had been searching for? Rosa's breath caught in her throat as she recognized the girl sitting at a corner table. Ellie was hunched over a sketchbook, pencil moving rapidly across the pages, her brow furrowed in concentration. She looked young, maybe barely out of high school, and it was easy to see why Ms. Ellis had thought she might be nervous during the chaotic performances. Rosa felt an immediate tug of empathy. Is that her? Jimmy whispered, squeezing Rosa's hand. Yeah, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The knot of tension in her stomach twisted as they approached the table, every step heavy with the weight of her uncertainty. Excuse me, Ellie. Rosa said, her voice firm yet gentle. The young girl looked up, startled. Can we talk to you for a moment? Ellie's wide eyes darted from Rosa to Jimmy, a flicker of recognition sparking in them, but she remained silent. Rosa took a deep breath, searching for the right words. We heard you were working backstage during the play last night. I need to ask you about something that went missing, a necklace. Do you remember seeing it? Ellie shook her head, her expression clouding with confusion. I don't think I touched anything like that. I was just focused on my tasks. Of course, Rosa said, trying to keep her tone light. But Ms. Ellis mentioned seeing you go near the costume area at one point. It was a really busy night, and accidents happen. Do you think maybe you could have bumped into something? Or, taken something without realizing? Ellie's face flushed. I was just so scared I'd mess up. I kept my head down. But, now that you mention it, I think I might have brushed against a table or something. She paused, a flicker of shame crossing her features. I promise I wouldn't take anything on purpose. I was just trying to keep up. Rosa felt a pang of empathy deep within her. She recognized that fear all too well, the fear of not belonging, of being out of place. We believe you, Ellie. We just need to figure out where it went. Ellie nodded slowly, the tension in her shoulders easing a bit. Maybe check with the other stagehands? There were some girls I worked with who might have seen something, or even helped clean up afterward. They were closer to the jewelry. I didn't really talk to them much, but they might have noticed. Thank you, Jimmy said, his voice filled with gratitude. Rosa caught a glimpse of relief flickering in Ellie's eyes. This felt like a burden she had been carrying alone suddenly lifted. I hope it turns up, Ellie added under her breath, almost too soft to hear, but the sincerity in her tone struck Rosa deeply. As they left the cafe, Rosa's mind raced with newfound possibilities. They had a direction to follow now. But there was something else stirring, a sense that maybe, just maybe, this young girl was more entwined in their story than they first realized. Do you think she knows more than she's letting on? Jimmy asked, his brow furrowed. I don't know, Rosa replied thoughtfully. But I can't shake this feeling that she's scared. This whole situation, it's a lot for anyone. I agree. But maybe it's a chance for us to help her, too, he said, glancing back at Ellie. The weight of their task pressed heavier again, but her hope shone brighter. What if resolving this didn't just help Marina? What if it opened a door for Ellie as well? As they rounded the corner, a gust of wind rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of blooming flowers, bright and full of promise. Rosa turned to Jimmy, a renewed fire in her spirit. Let us find those stagehands. But as they walked briskly toward the theater, the nagging thought lingered: what would happen if they uncovered not only the truth about the necklace but also the hidden fears connecting all their lives? Would it be enough to mend the rift left by the Andersons, or would it just lead to more questions? Rosa felt the fluttering in her chest intensify as they approached the next step into uncertainty, but this time, she was ready. The story was far from over. As Rosa and Jimmy walked, the sounds of the bustling streets faded into the background, their thoughts consumed by Ellie and the mystery of the missing necklace. The sun had risen higher in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over everything. It should have been a beautiful day, yet Rosa couldn't shake the heaviness that settled in her heart. What if Ellie really took it? Rosa's voice wavered. She seemed so uncertain. Jimmy glanced at her, concern etched on his face. I don't think she did. She seemed different from how Ms. Ellis described her. There's something fragile about her. But we need to find the others. They could help uncover the truth. Turning the corner, they spotted the theater. It loomed large, its charm momentarily overshadowed by their mission. As they approached the entrance, a small group of girls emerged. Laughter bubbled among them, but their faces fell as they noticed Rosa and Jimmy. Hey, do you know where we could find some of the stagehands who worked last night? Jimmy asked, breaking the silence. One girl, her hair tied back with a bright bow, nodded. Yeah, they're probably at the break room. You should head that way. But they can be, busy. She looked at Rosa with a hint of sympathy. Thank you, Rosa replied, her heart racing. She could feel the weight of expectations, both for Marina and now for Ellie. They headed inside, the familiar scent of paint and fabric filling her lungs. The break room was a small, cluttered space, humming with chatter and the scent of popcorn. Rosa's heart sank as she scanned the room. None of the stagehands seemed ready to help. Maybe they're all too preoccupied, Jimmy said, shrugging. Let us just ask, Rosa said, steeling her resolve. She approached a group gathered around a table, their conversations animated but shifting as she neared. Excuse me, may I interrupt? The girls exchanged glances, hesitation evident. One of them, a tall girl with expressive eyes, stepped forward. What is going on? We're looking for anyone who worked backstage during the last performance. There was a necklace that might have gone missing, and we're hoping you might have some information," Rosa said, her heart pounding. The room fell silent, the laughter replaced by an air of tension. The girl shifted uncomfortably. "We didn't see anything, really. It was such a rush at the end." But she paused, glancing at her friends before continuing. "I heard some girls talking about a bag that was left behind. Maybe check with Tanya. I think she was in the area." "Thank you," Rosa replied, relief flooding through her. This felt like a lead, a direction to pursue. As they walked down the narrow hallway, Jimmy squeezed her hand reassuringly. "Looks like we're one step closer. But what if this turns into more?" Rosa's chest tightened. More could mean trouble, or more stories to uncover. "We're not just looking for a necklace anymore, Jimmy. There's something deeper." They reached a door at the end of the hall, the sound of muffled voices spilling out. Taking a deep breath, Rosa pushed it open. Inside was a small group, one of whom was indeed Tanya, a striking girl with a cool demeanor. "Hi," Rosa began, catching Tanya's attention. "We're trying to find information about a necklace that disappeared during the performance. Ellie mentioned you might have seen something." Tanya crossed her arms, her expression challenging. "Ellie? That little girl? I guess I saw her around, but I don't know what you're getting at." Just Rosa felt a rush of anger mingling with desperation. "We're hoping to understand if anything unusual happened. We're all in this together, right?" For a moment, Tanya's eyes softened, and a hint of vulnerability flickered across her face. "I might know something, but it's not just about the necklace." That place was tense. There were whispers about more. Rosa leaned in, curiosity swirling with anxiety. "More?" "Yeah, there's always more." Tanya's voice dropped. "Like secrets that people carry." Rosa glanced at Jimmy, who looked equally intrigued. What had they stepped into? As Tanya began to share her story, it hit. "Rosa, what if this was more than just a missing necklace? What if the truth unveiled something life-changing not just for Marina, but for Ellie, and possibly even for all of them?" The weight of revelation hung in the air, thick and palpable. What secrets lay just beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered? Would they be ready to face whatever came next? Tanya leaned against the wall, her cool demeanor seeming to waver slightly as the room waited in silence. Rosa felt the tension prickle in the air, each second stretching out like an eternity. She could sense that Tanya had a story to tell, one that could unravel the mystery they were tangled in. "There's a lot that goes on when the curtain drops," Tanya started, her voice barely above a whisper. "Many girls are desperate to make their mark, and sometimes, their ambition takes over." Jimmy shifted closer to Rosa, his expression serious. "What do you mean? Are you saying someone took the necklace on purpose?" Tanya bit her lip, glancing around as if afraid someone might overhear. "There were some girls who thought it'd be funny to play a prank. They wanted to make Ellie look bad. You know, just for kicks. I overheard them giggling about it after the show." Rosa's heart raced. "That's terrible. Do you know who they were?" "Not for sure, but I have an idea. I know who Ellie was hanging out with last night. If you really want to help her, you need to talk to those girls. But be careful. They're not just playing around, they can be ruthless." Rosa felt a surge of protectiveness for Ellie. It wasn't just about the necklace anymore, it was about her. "Can you tell us where we can find them?" Tanya sighed, her posture relaxing ever so slightly. "They usually hang out by the soda stand after rehearsals. Just be prepared. They're all about appearances, their own, at least." "Thank you, Tanya," Jimmy said, then turned to Rosa. "We should hurry. If these girls are spreading rumors, Ellie might need us to set things right." Rosa nodded, steering her thoughts away from the weight of what they might confront. As they hurried out, the noise of the break room faded behind them. "Do you really think Ellie's innocent?" Jimmy asked, his voice low. Rosa thought of Ellie's wide eyes, how confused she had looked. "I do. No one should ever feel like they're being hunted down for something they didn't do." They found their way back through the theater, passing through its hauntingly beautiful corridors bathed in soft light. Rosa's heart thundered with every step closer to the soda stand. As they approached, she spotted a small group of girls huddled together, whispering and giggling. The laughter was sharp, mocking, almost sinister. Rosa took a deep breath, feeling a mix of fear and determination. "Stay close," she whispered to Jimmy. They stepped into the tight circle of girls, Rosa's heart pounding in her chest. "Excuse us," she said, trying to sound confident. "Can we talk?" The girls turned to face them, their expressions shifting from surprise to amusement. Well, look who it is." "The little detectives," one girl sneered, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "What do you want?" "We want to know about Ellie's necklace," Rosa said, hardening her resolve. "Did you say anything to her or about her after the show?" The laughter died down, replaced by a defensive silence that crept into the air around them. "Why should we tell you anything?" another girl said, crossing her arms. "Because it's not right to blame someone who's innocent." Rosa felt the words explode out of her. "You want a laugh? Try something that's not at someone else's expense." The girls shifted uneasily, the dismissive front beginning to crack. Jimmy stood beside Rosa, his steady presence giving her strength. "Did you see anyone around the stage after the show? Was there something going on that night that we need to hear?" he pressed. Those words seemed to resonate somehow. There was a flicker of uncertainty in their eyes. As if the facade of bravado was starting to crumble, Rosa sensed they were close to something vital. "Maybe we did," one of the girls muttered, glancing at her friends. Rosa held her breath. It was just the opening she needed. But would they trust her? What would come pouring out next? Were they finally on the edge of the truth? The moment hung in the air. Rosa's heart raced as the girls spoke, a fragile crack in their armor of mockery. The other girls exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of curiosity and trepidation. This was at the keynote moment where everything could unravel or tighten even more. "What do you mean, maybe we did?" Rosa pressed, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her chest. The girl who had muttered shifted, her bravado faltering. "Just, forget it. It wasn't that big of a deal," she said, feigning indifference. "Rosa, let's not push too hard," Jimmy cautioned, noticing the tension. But Rosa couldn't let this slip away. "No. If you know something, you need to speak up," Rosa insisted, trying to sound forceful but not aggressive. "This isn't just about a necklace. It's about trust. It's about someone's reputation." The tension snapped like a rubber band, and the girl who'd spoken up finally cracked. "Okay, fine. We saw someone near the stage after the show. Someone wearing a black hoodie. They were acting all sneaky. We didn't think they'd actually take anything, they just seemed shady." Rosa's pulse quickened. "Did you see them clearly?" A second girl chimed in, her confidence bolstered. "Not really. They were just, blending in with the shadows. But it was weird, the way they were hiding. We didn't think it was a big deal until we heard about Ellie." "So why didn't you say anything before?" Jimmy asked, his brows furrowing in thought. The first girl shrugged. "We didn't want to get involved or be seen as snitches. You know how it is." Rosa felt a swell of frustration mixed with clarity. "But don't you understand? You could be protecting someone who's innocent. Ellie needs your help." The girls shared uncertain glances, shifting their weight. Slowly, the bravado began to wane, like the last flickers of a dying flame. "Okay, Maybe we really should help, one of them said quietly, her eyes darting nervously towards the ground. We can tell you everything we heard. Just promise to keep it between us. Rosa and Jimmy exchanged hopeful glances, but they were running out of time. We promise, Rosa assured, her heart pounding loudly in her ears. Thank you for being brave enough to come forward. The girls began to spill their knowledge about that night, revealing fragments of conversations and shadows that crept around the stage. Each piece built a clearer picture, moving them closer to the truth. As they conversed, Rosa caught sight of a figure lingering at the edge of the theater. Someone watching them. She squinted, her heart racing once more, but the person melded into the shadows before she could make out a face. We should go, Jimmy said cautiously, sensing Rosa's unease. This isn't safe. We've got what we need for now. Right, Rosa replied, trying to conceal her sudden anxiety. But she could feel a chill creeping over her. What if the hoodie had been someone from their conversation? How close were they from the danger that loomed in the dark? As they stepped away from the group, her heart was heavy with a mix of relief and lingering dread. They had unearthed valuable information, but the threat still hovered like a storm cloud. Do you think we'll be able to get to Ellie before it's too late? Rosa asked, her voice barely audible over the clatter of backstage sounds. We have to, Jimmy said, determination hardening his features. But as they turned back towards the theater's warm glow, Rosa's heart sank. What if there were more secrets? Deeper, darker motives? Something told her that the plot had thickened far beyond what they'd uncovered. And there was still someone in that audience, shrouded in the anonymity of darkness, who wasn't done yet. What would they discover next? The backstage hallway buzzed with the remaining echoes of the show, loud laughter and crashing voices trying to drown out Rosa's swirling thoughts. She tightened her grip on Jimmy's arm, urgency propelling them forward. Every step felt heavy with the weight of their responsibility. Rosa, wait. Jimmy stopped, catching his breath. What do we do next? We can't just rush in there without a plan. His eyes darted back to the group of girls they had just left. What if they feel threatened? Rosa felt her pulse quicken again. The uncertainty gnawed at her. We can't go back now. Ellie's counting on us. They moved quickly through the darkened theater, shadows dancing backstage like unwelcome phantoms. The air held a musty scent of old curtains and paint, but all Rosa could smell was fear. She imagined Ellie, alone and scared, trapped in that dark moment of uncertainty. Their mission was clear: find her and clear her name. As they rounded a corner, Rosa saw the familiar backdrop of the stage. It was breathtaking, even in the dim light. But all she could focus on was the backstage door. What if Ellie was still there? A moment of hesitation washed over her. Could they really face whatever danger might lurk beyond? Look, Jimmy said softly, breaking into her thoughts. The girls mentioned the hoodie figure. What if they're still hanging around? We need to be careful. Rosa nodded, but her resolve grew stronger. If we don't find Ellie now, we might lose our chance. Let us check around the stage first. If she's not there, we can regroup. They crept toward the stage, moving quietly. As they stepped into the glow of the footlights, Rosa peered around, heart hammering in her chest. Everything felt different, almost surreal. Ellie? She whispered, her voice barely lifting above the hum of the audience settling into their seats. The quiet swallowed her words, but a rustle in the wings drew her attention. She leaned closer, heart racing as the shadowy figure emerged, a crew member shifting equipment. Relief flooded her, but it only lasted a moment. Wait. There's someone else. Jimmy's whisper cut through the air. He pointed toward a silhouette lurking near the curtain's edge, just out of sight. Rosa squinted, dread coiling in her stomach. They hadn't been imagining it. The black hoodie had returned, bathed in darkness and intent. Should we call for help? Jimmy asked, his voice barely above a murmur. No. Rosa gripped his arm tightly, her mind racing. We need to confront them. Maybe they know where Ellie is. She stepped forward, uncertainty colliding with bravado. Be careful, Rosa, Jimmy cautioned, his voice filled with concern. But she was already moving, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Hey! Who are you? She called out, her voice stronger than she felt. The figure turned abruptly, surprise flashing across their obscured features. For a moment, everything fell silent. Then, without a word, the person bolted towards the exit. Stop! Rosa shouted, chasing after them. She could hear Jimmy's footsteps pounding behind her, but all that mattered was catching this figure. As they burst through the door into the night, Rosa's heart raced with fear and determination. She had to find out who they were. They had answers, this was her last chance to save Ellie. But as the figure sprinted away into the shadows, Rosa felt a sinking realization settling within her. Are we sure we're ready for what comes next? Jimmy panted, glancing nervously at the retreating figure. What if we're about to uncover something we can't handle? Rosa hesitated, looking back. She could sense the urgency of the moment, the shifting tides of fate. There's no other choice, she whispered. We have to know the truth. Driven by hope and dread, they plunged into the darkness, unaware of the storm waiting just ahead. What unexpected truths would they face in this chase? The chill of the night air cut through Rosa as she and Jimmy raced after the figure, each breath fogging in the coolness. The performance lights began to fade behind them, a stark contrast to the uncertainty of the dark alley ahead. Rosa's heart hammered in her chest, and every instinct told her to turn back, yet she pressed on, fueled by courage and a flickering hope. Keep up, Jimmy! Rosa shouted, barely registering the unease in her own voice. The mysterious figure was just ahead, a shadow darting between the parked cars lining the street. She could see the hood bobbing, the fabric dancing with every hurried step. We can't let them get away. A splice of adrenaline surged through her. With each footfall, she felt the weight of 1,000 worries entwined in her mission. What if Ellie was counting on them? What if they were the only chance she had left? The urgency pushed her forward, and Jimmy matched her pace, his face set in grim determination. The figure glanced back, eyeing them with a fleeting but unmistakable look of panic. Rosa and Jimmy exchanged a quick look. They were onto something now. The answer was close. Was it fear that made their pursuer flee, or something else? A secret perhaps? Just then, the figure made a sharp turn, disappearing around a corner. Rosa followed, a mix of fear and anticipation igniting her resolve. We've got to be ready for anything. She urged Jimmy, the sound of their footsteps echoing against the cold pavement as they rounded the corner. They stumbled into a narrow lane, dimly lit by a flickering streetlight. It cast an eerie glow, illuminating the walls plastered with forgotten posters and graffiti. Rosa's heart sank as she saw the figure pause at the dead end. There was nowhere left to run. They had the person cornered now. Gotcha! Rosa called out, trying to intimidate them, though her stomach churned with uncertainty. What do you know about Ellie? Where is she? The figure turned, raising their hands in a defensive posture, but the hood fell back, revealing a face that made Rosa freeze. It was a girl from one of the drama classes. Ava. I'm not your enemy. She gasped, breathing heavily, wide-eyed with fear. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Jimmy's eyes darted between them, confusion etched across his face. What do you mean? What is going on? With a shaky breath, Ava stepped back, glancing over her shoulder, as if expecting someone to burst onto the scene at any moment. Ellie, she's in trouble, and I thought I could help. But I was wrong. I messed everything up. Rosa's heart twisted in her chest. What are you talking about? We need to know now. She's counting on us. I didn't realize she was being set up. I thought it was a prank. But Ava choked on her words, tears beginning to fill her eyes. But I overheard things, and I didn't come in time to warn her. What kind of things? Jimmy pressed. Just wait. Ava's gaze turned distant. I didn't mean to lead someone to her. Someone is after Ellie, and I am terrified I don't know who to trust anymore. Suddenly, the uncertainty twisted like a knife through Rosa's gut. Each word Ava spoke solidified a frightening truth: the stakes were much higher than they had anticipated. It wasn't just a misunderstanding, it was a premeditated threat. Rosa reached out, placing a hand on Ava's shoulder. We can figure this out together. It's not too late. But beneath her calm facade, a storm brewed, one she wasn't sure they could weather. What if we can't? Jimmy whispered, glancing around, anxiety creeping into his voice. Just as they began to discuss their next move, a chilling noise echoed from the other end of the alley, a low, menacing sound that made them all freeze. Ava. Rosa's grip tightened, and she felt her heartbeat in her ears. What now? And then the shadows seemed to shift ominously as more figures stepped into view. Run! Rosa yelled, sensing that danger was not far behind. Would they find Ellie in time, or would they too fall victim to the shadows? Rosa's heart raced as fear gripped her. They had stumbled into something far bigger than a simple misunderstanding about a necklace. Shadows lurked, heavy and oppressive, as ominous figures approached. Go! She shouted again, urgency flaring in her eyes. She grabbed Ava's hand, pulling her along as they fled down the alley. Behind them, sinister laughter echoed, sending chills down Rosa's spine. Jimmy was right behind them, his determination lending strength as they ran. Narrow streets twisted and turned as they sought an escape. Rosa's mind whirled. We need to find Ellie. She gasped, desperate to keep her daughter's name at the forefront of her thoughts. We are so close. But what if they get her first? Jimmy shot back, panic creeping into his voice. We can't think like that. Rosa urged, each word fueled by desperation and determination. We have to stay focused. We need to protect her. Suddenly, the alley opened up to a wider street, illuminated by bright lights. Rosa scanned the surroundings as they darted into the main square, eyes searching desperately for any sign of Ellie. The distant sound of laughter and chatter contrasted sharply with the tension that coursed through them. What next? Ava panted, her expression a mixture of dread and anxiety. Let us head to the cafe. Rosa suggested, recalling that Ellie had mentioned it often. We might find someone who knows where she is. Racing to the cafe, Rosa pushed through swinging doors, breathless but hopeful. The familiar aroma of brewed coffee and baked pastries filled the air, but her heart sank as patrons turned curious eyes toward them. So much for blending in. Ellie. Rosa called, scanning the room until she locked eyes with a waitress. Have you seen a girl named Ellie? She's in trouble. The waitress, a woman with kind eyes, paused at the urgency in Rosa's voice. I think she was here earlier with some of her friends. They left about 20 minutes ago, she replied, concern etching her features. Which way did they go? Jimmy pressed quickly. Toward the park, but the waitress hesitated, frowning. I wouldn't go there right now. Something's been off. I can feel it. Rosa felt her anxiety spike. We have to. She could be in danger. Let us move, Jimmy urged, determination igniting again as they headed for the exit. The trio dashed down the street, their footsteps echoing on the pavement, hearts racing with an unyielding drive to find Ellie. As they neared the park, dusk painted the sky a deep purple, the shadows growing long and eerie. Rosa's chest tightened with each step. Ellie was out there somewhere, and she wouldn't allow fear to stop them. Rosa, I think Ava trailed off, her eyes narrowing as they caught sight of group figures ahead. They seemed to hover under the flickering park lights. A rush of adrenaline surged through Rosa. "Stay close," she whispered, glancing at Jimmy, who nodded in acknowledgement, steeling himself. They crept forward, cautiously approaching the cluster of teenagers gathered at a picnic table, recognizable from the theater. Rosa squinted, panic swelling. There was Ellie, her expression clouded with confusion, surrounded by those who had mocked her. "Ellie!" Rosa called as she burst into the clearing, but her voice caught in her throat. At the sight of her daughter, the anger burning in her veins ignited. This was at the moment they had been running toward. "Let her go!" Rosa shouted, pushing past members of the group. The teenagers turned, surprised at the arrival of Rosa and her comrades. "Whoa! What's the rush?" one girl said flippantly, but Rosa wasn't interested in jokes. "Ellie, are you okay?" she asked, reaching her daughter. Ellie looked relieved but shaken. "Mom. I didn't know what was happening," she stammered, her eyes darting nervously. "They were just playing around earlier, and then it got weird. I thought it was a joke, but now I'm scared." "Who put you up to this?" Rosa demanded, turning to the group. "Who made you feel that you weren't safe?" Just then, a familiar figure stepped forward, arms crossed. It was Tanya, the confident girl from earlier. "It wasn't he supposed to go this far?" she blurted out as tension thickened in the air. "What do you mean?" Jimmy pressed, stepping alongside Rosa, fists clenched. "Look, we wanted to mess with Ellie, to see if she could take a tease. But some of us wanted to scare her into quitting. It started as a prank. But it turned dangerous," Rosa interjected, voice trembling with anger and concern. Tanya's bravado wavered under the scrutiny. "I didn't think it would actually hurt anyone. I'm sorry. I didn't want this." Rosa moved closer to Ellie, wrapping her arms around her protectively. "You think this is funny?" One of the other girls spoke up, a hint of fear breaking through her mockery. "We just thought that if we pushed her a little, she'd come out stronger. We thought it might be empowering." "Empowering is not bullying," Jimmy shot back. "You didn't think about how it feels from her side, did you?" Rosa looked at Ellie's confused and terrified face, her heart breaking. "You're stronger than you know, you always have been. And your bravery to stand up against this is what really makes you shine." As realization spread across the circle, something shifted. The tension turned into an understanding. "Forget the pranks, we didn't want to hurt you," another girl said, gazing at Ellie regretfully. "We thought you were too perfect to handle a little competition. I'm sorry." In that moment, recognition flickered to life. Sometimes, it took confronting disbelief to find solace on the other side. Ellie blinked back tears, a myriad of emotions crossing her face. "Thank you," she whispered, inching closer to Rosa. "Let us put this behind us," Rosa said softly, releasing Ellie's hand long enough to extend her hope toward the group. "You can start by owning up to what you did. It's time to be allies, not enemies." Nods of agreement rippled through the crowd, laughter replaced by an atmosphere of recognition and respect. "There's a way forward if we choose it together," Jimmy added, his voice calm yet resolute. As the remnants of tension faded into the night, a spotlight shone brighter than any single necklace ever could. Rosa felt hope flood her veins once more, and love shamed the shadows that once separated them. "Together, always," Rosa said, embracing her daughter, determination etched across her heart. And as they walked away from the shadows that had enveloped them for so long, Rosa knew they had finally found a way forward. In that moment, she understood the deepest truth: the community, when joined together by love and understanding, could rustle even the darkest of nights. Now, dear friends, this is the moment to show your support. If you felt inspired, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it makes a real difference. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending, your voice matters. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.